Hello, you're watching Vietnam News Agency's Daily Bulletin. Up next are the headlines. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc asked Hanoi to facilitate startups. Vietnam boosts dialogues to intensify regional security. Exhibition chronicles President Ho Chi Minh's national salvation trip. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc urged authorities of Hanoi to promote reform and take initiatives in order to further support startup enterprises while addressing an investment promotion conference in Hanoi on June 4th.
Themed Hanoi 2016 Cooperation, Investment and Development. The conference manifests Hanoi authorities' determination to reform as committed by the city and as instructed by the Prime Minister. It also aims to collect opinions from diplomatic missions, foreign organizations, business associations and investors for making the investment environment more friendly to startup businesses. Prime Minister Phúc asked leaders of the city to take strong action, focusing on improving the investment climate and removing barriers which cause the cities deviate from development. He stressed the need for Hanoi to fully tap its potential and strength to seize and realize development opportunities. He said Hanoi should be the vanguard in startup promotion and become a startup and creative center of the city. The government encourages Hanoi to pilot international initiatives and practices in restructuring state enterprises and managing public assets, thus increasing transparency and reducing wastefulness, he stated. At the meeting, representatives from associations and enterprises operating in the city proposed measures to improve the business climate and draw investment to Hanoi. How best to use official development assistance capital in ways to assist the city's enterprises to access capital sources and loans. They also gave recommendations to attract resources for developing high-tech healthcare and discussed the preservation of Hanoi's cultural identity.
The same day, Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc paid a working visit to the Central Highlands province of Lâm Đồng. Working with the provincial leaders, Prime Minister Phúc held the province's strong development in many sectors over the past 5 years, proving its prestige and position in the whole country. He asked the province, as well as other localities, to be more active in building and implementing their socio-economic development measures. Over the past 5 years, Lâm Đồng posted an annual growth of 14.1% and a GDP per capita of $2,068, nearly the same as the country's level. The province targeted a GDP per capita of 70 to 73 million Vietnam dong, or $3,180 to $3,318, and a poverty reduction rate of 1.5 to 2% by 2020. Lâm Đồng authorities also proposed the government build important expressways connecting South Central Highlands and Ho Chi Minh City and asked for the approval of a program to turn Đà Lạt Resort City into a centrally run city by 2020. Earlier, Prime Minister Phúc visited and presented gifts to ethnic people in An Thon Ha Commune, Đức Trọng District. He urged local authorities and people to continue to uphold their achievements, maintain solidarity, pay more attention to the younger generations, and ensure social order and security for further development. Deputy Defense Minister Nguyễn Chí Vịnh, head of the Vietnamese delegation to the 15th Shangri-La Dialogue, had bilateral meetings with representatives from a number of countries to discuss ways to intensify regional security on June 3rd in Singapore.
In his meeting with U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense for Asian and Pacific Security Affairs, David Shear, Vic said Vietnam and the U.S. can expand their defense cooperation for the interests of both sides. He expressed his hope that the U.S. continues realizing its commitments to supporting Vietnam in participating in the United Nations peacekeeping forces. addressing war aftermath, detoxifying dioxin at Bien Hoa Airport, and realizing a map of unexploded ordnance left from the war in Vietnam. She affirms that the U.S. will continue to help Vietnam participate in the U.S. peacekeeping missions and handle war consequences. While meeting Chan Yang-kit, Permanent Secretary at Singapore's Defense Ministry, Vinh thanked Singapore for training officers for the Vietnamese Army, especially in improving English language skills for peacekeepers, Army Medical Corps, and teachers. He suggested both sides intensify collaboration and join exercises within the framework of the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus. The Singaporean official said that his country will actively carry out measures to boost cooperation between the two defense ministries on the basis of Vietnam's proposals. The Vietnamese officer also met with Chief of the Australian Defence Force, Mark Binskin, during which they agreed to expand collaboration and intensify connectivity between research institutes and scholars. Binskin suggested exchanging groups of experts and scholars, from which they make specific recommendations for the two countries' cooperation directions. When meeting Admiral Sun Chien-kuo, Deputy Chief of the Joint Staff Department of China's Central Military Commission, Deputy Defense Minister Vinh suggested the two countries organize strategic defense dialogues at the deputy ministerial level and intensify coordination between the border, naval, and maritime police guard forces. Sun Chien-kuo asked the two defense ministries to continue sharing experience in joining peacekeeping missions, exchanging high-ranking delegations, and boosting exchange activities between the two countries' border areas. In his meeting with representatives from Canada and New Zealand, Vinh confirmed Vietnam's willingness to build practical and effective defense cooperation relations with these countries.
Senior officials in charge of cultural and social affairs from ASEAN's member states gathered at the 15th meeting of the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community that took place in Laos' Luang Prabang province on June 4th. Deputy Minister of Labour, Environment and Social Affairs Doãn Mậu Diệp led the Vietnamese delegation to the event. Lao Prime Minister Thongloun Sisoulith said cooperation in the cultural social pillar within ASEAN recorded remarkable achievements, especially successfully implementing the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community Master Plan in 2009-2015. A joint statement on issues discussed was released after the meeting. They included the implementation of the Community Master Plan for submission to high-ranking ASEAN leaders for approval. Addressing the event, Deputy Minister Diệp said the Vietnamese government has supported a project on realizing objectives of the ASEAN Social Cultural Community by 2025. The move is expected to help build a community with the participation of all related stakeholders in an integrated, self-reliant and dynamic manner. An exhibition featuring President Ho Chi Minh's journey to national salvation is underway in Hanoi, a celebration of the 105th anniversary of his departure abroad to seek ways to save the country, June 5th, and the 126th anniversary of his birth, May 19th. Nearly 200 photos and materials on display at the exhibition, which will last throughout June, give an insight into the hardship endured by the late president and his contributions to national development.
The house at number 9 Compoint, Paris, is where Uncle Ho once lived from 1921 to 1923. Despite difficulties, he never stopped thinking of the home country and how to claim the rights of freedom and democracy for the Vietnamese people.
Known in those days as Nguyễn Tất Thành, Uncle Ho made the decision to go abroad in 1911 and traveled to discover the pathway to freedom, to be awakened to Marxism, Leninism, and become a communist devoted to the entire Vietnamese people. With strong will, intelligence and talent, he led the Vietnamese revolutionary movement to follow the orbit of a proletarian revolution. He set up the Communist Party of Vietnam and prepared the necessary conditions to bring national liberation to final victory. Under the leadership of President Ho Chi Minh, the Vietnamese people successfully conducted the August Revolution in 1945, giving birth to the Democratic Republic of Vietnam and opening up a new era in Vietnamese history, the era of national independence and socialism. Drunk driving or refusal to comply with police-ordered alcohol and drug tests will now attract penalties of up to $800.
The new decree, with stiffer regulations recently issued by the Prime Minister, aims to ensure road and rail traffic safety. It comes into effect on August 1st. The same penalty will apply for speeding and swerving the vehicle recklessly. The decree also says umbrellas, earphones, and mobile phones cannot be used while riding vehicles, including motorbikes and electric bikes. The government hopes the new regulations will improve public awareness on road and railway safety and reduce traffic accidents. According to the National Traffic Safety Committee, from December 16 last year to May 15 this year, there were more than 8,300 traffic accidents, resulting in more than 3,500 fatalities and over 7,300 injuries.
Vietnamese epic poem Lục Vân Tiên, the story of Lục Vân Tiên, has been launched for the first time in 3 languages, Vietnamese, English, and French.
The 2-volume book comprises 296 pages of handwritten manuscript with illustrations and 312 pages of annotation. Lục Vân Tiên was penned by the blind poet Nguyễn Đình Chiểu in the known script of the ancient Chinese-based Vietnamese script in the 19th century. The multi-language book has been published by the Academy of the Far East in Vietnam, based on the original manuscript with colored illustrations by French author Eugène Guibert. Guibert was an artillery lieutenant and lived in Vietnam from 1895 to 1897. He learned about the Lục Vân Tiên through a French translation in 1883. Guibert liked the work and asked someone to copy it by hand. He also came to Huế to ask Vietnamese painter Lê Đức Trạch to illustrate the poem. 2 years later, Guibert went back to France and offered the book to the Academy of Inscriptions and Letters in Paris. It was in 2011 that Professor Van Huyle discovered by chance several pieces of documents on a visit to the Academy and found this manuscript with illustrations.
The poem is a narrative comprising more than 2,000 lines. All of its pages are illustrated with paintings. It is hard to imagine that such a huge work was done in 1895 to 1897.
Lục Vân Tiên is one of the most recognizable and influential epic poems in Vietnamese. The tales affirms Vietnam's traditional moral virtues, praises the power of true love, and applauds bravery and fair justice.
The most valuable thing of this work is that it is the first known script poem with 100% illustration. It comprises lively color paintings and vividly illustrated basic content.
The colored illustrated manuscript has been preserved in good condition. The illustrations were on display as part of an exhibition in Ho Chi Minh City's Institute of Cultural Exchange with France in 2013.
And that has come to an end of our program. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you next time.